Hello, everybody. Back to the Shady Oak Podcast. I'm in my usual attire as well, as Kayla would say. We are here with Miss Elder, the principal of Shady Oak Primary. Miss Elder, tell us a little bit about yourself before we start this podcast.
I will. Thanks for having me, Robert. I'm honored to be on the show today. So, yes, I am the owner of Shady Oak Primary School. We are stepping into our 8th school year. It has been so fun. We do a lot of really cool things here at school, but I won't step into your questions just yet. I am originally from Canada, started my career off as a police officer, and look where I am now.
I was actually going to ask you, what did you do before the school year? School thing you did. But first, what inspired you to start this school?
Well, I actually didn't start Shady Oak Primary School. I purchased it from its previous owner, Mrs. Joyce Trigger, who also owns the preschool across the street. And she expanded to opening the primary school. And then my financial advisor, who is also her financial advisor, approached me to purchase the school back in 2012. And I initially said, oh, heck no, those are little kids. I had been used to working with middle and high school students. Actually, troubled teens is really my sweet spot. But the more I thought about it, I realized that if I could affect change earlier, maybe it would be longer lasting. And so that was the reason and the tipping point for me why I decided to purchase Shady Oak Primary School.
Very interesting. Last year, during COVID and stuff, how did y'all run the school? Because I know normally you put them together and go outside together, but how did you run the school during COVID?
We had to make a lot of changes, Robert. So we brought the CDC in and they walked the school with me and Mrs. Rawls back in July of last year, almost to the day a year ago. And they told us exactly how many students we could have in each room. So where we're recording right now is our art studio, but we had to use it last year as a classroom. We were fortunate in that each of our areas had their own bathrooms, had their own access to the playground, and their own access to the street. So we were able to keep our 3 pods totally separate. And students like you, new to our school, there was kids going to the school here that you never met because you had no access to them, which made me very sad. We also had to wear masks. We had a lot of hand sanitizers, and I bought my big Ghostbuster sprayer to spray all the surfaces. We were very careful on the playground. We each had our own bin so that the pods didn't intermingle with other people's toys. It was crazy. But as always on this campus, we like to reflect and learn and see what could we take out of COVID that we might want to use moving forward. And we found a few nuggets that we would have never determined or discovered had COVID not happened. So for that, we're very, very happy.
Like what?
Well, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to continue to split our classes in the morning for academics, and we're also going to split them in the afternoon, but differently. Meaning in the morning, you'll be split by your strengths for academics, but in the afternoon, we might split you because we know you like this particular group of friends, and then you'll go to speech and art with this group. So you're with people you really enjoy being with, or maybe there's a group that like to be really quiet when they work, so we'll keep the quiet students together. And maybe there's a group that doesn't need it to be so quiet, in fact, really enjoys and welcomes a little bit of noise and chatter. It helps stimulate their thoughts. So we're really going to try and look at ensuring students get to spend time with everybody in their class as opposed to just the same ones they're with in the morning. So that's one thing that came out of it.
Well, I was going to ask you, pretty much we know most about the camp. Can you tell us the things we can't show in this room right now? Tell us about the playground, the classrooms.
Yeah, so great question. So when I purchased the school, we had a very small fort on the playground. And I remember that first year thinking, I want more space. I really wanted more space. So myself and my buddy Sean, we went and looked at a bunch of property around here. Sean McNair owns Gateway Prep, and he is my follow-up school. So he has the 6th through 12th grade program. And we went and looked at a bunch of properties, and what was missing was trees. No trees, no shade. No shade, no good for my kids. So we made the decision to abort that idea and stay here. The next thing I did was I went and knocked on all of my neighbors' doors to see if anyone would be willing to sell so we could knock down a fence and expand that way. That didn't happen. So then I was sitting out back on one of the picnic tables where we have lunch in our snack recess, and I thought, you know what? What if we go up? So we did. And in 2018, we built two humongous tree forts that are so fun. They have a climbing wall, slides, what do you call, like a
Rope bridge.
rope bridge. So yeah, and then we have another one that has monkey bars and access to go up and sit in the tree. So I'm really proud of how the playground has turned out. In the school itself, we have quite a large kitchen that we use when we're doing our feasts, so our students learn to cook and also to meet and sit with people they don't normally have a chance to converse with. We bring in guest speakers, as you know, often for our feasts. That kitchen looking room is our collaboration room, and it's used daily where students work on project-based learning skills together. We also have a new addition this year, our lounge, which I'm super excited about, that will allow students to go in the mornings and work very quietly, but in the afternoons, again, it'll be another collaboration space that will have some high stools with a high table for those that like that. We have what looks like a dining room table with really beautiful soft chairs, and then we'll also have some beanbag chairs in that room. So we offer a variety of seating so students can feel really comfortable. I think when you feel comfortable, you learn.
My question is, where will this be? Because I know there's an art room, your office, playground, and two libraries, sort of. But where will it be? Because there's a big homeroom which is going to be filled, so I don't know where this could be fit in.
So this lounge will be just outside the kitchen door, and it will be the area that separates lower elementary from upper elementary. There's a space there that I wouldn't say we've struggled to use effectively, but I've never been totally satisfied with how it's been used, but I'm very excited about this project. And you know what else is important to me, Robert, is that when students come back to school at the beginning of the school year, especially if they're returning fifth grade students, so that they've been here for the last 4 years, I love to see their faces when they walk in. They're like, wow, it looks new, it looks different. So Mrs. Rawls and I work really hard to change some things up to make it fresh and exciting every school year.
I know I've only been here for 1 year, so I only know what it looked like last year, but I'm still pretty excited to see what it's going to look like. So next question. Besides the police officer, because we know that, because you introduced yourself with it, what else did you do before you did this school?
Yes, so I was a police officer early in my career. Then I moved from Ottawa, Canada to Calgary, Alberta. And in Calgary, I worked at a young offender center, which is like a juvenile delinquent hall here in the States. And I ran the disciplinary unit, which means if you broke a very serious law on the outside, you came to me. Or if you broke a very serious rule inside the jail, you came to me. So I got a lot of learning done and experience in raising children, communicating with children. There was a really funny story very early in my career at the jail. My partner, who I'm still very close friends with, Robert, also a Robert, went on break, and I was left with 17, 16 to 18-year-olds, males, big males, on my unit. And it was time for them to get ready for bed. So I yelled out to everybody, and it was a two-story unit, and I yelled out to everyone, I said, hey guys, it's time to put your pajamas on. And this kid, I still remember his name, Chad, walks to the balcony and leans over and he goes, yeah, who's going to make me? I was like, oh. So I learned a really valuable lesson that night. You do not tell people what to do. You tell people what you're going to do. So I always spoke afterwards in enforceable statements. Instead of telling them what they were going to do, I told them what I was going to do. So I learned a lot working at the jail. I also then was promoted to the position of labor relations coordinator, which means I was the liaison between the staff, the union, and management. So anything that happened at our jail, I was brought in for as a person to negotiate and ensure everyone was treated fairly. I learned a lot doing that also. Then I was married. We opened up the very first computerized jail in North America, and I was on that team. That was also the same year that the Olympics came to Calgary, and we housed a lot of volunteers at our new jail, which served two purposes. It allowed them to stay somewhere for free. They were all provincial employees, and it gave us a chance to try out our new toy, our new jail with. And so one lady unfortunately got locked in her room. We couldn't, because there was a computer glitch. And so she left the next day. She was not very happy. But most people really enjoyed our new facility. Then we opened it up. We took inmates in, and I stayed there for a couple of more years. And then I was pregnant with my first daughter. So I left the jail, which I was very sad to do. I really enjoyed that position. I also was trained a lot. The people that I worked with really weren't interested in learning anything new, and I always am. So I was trained in instructional methods. I was the self-defense instructor on campus at the jail. I was also, that was the time when AIDS were prevalent. And so I was the one that was trained in that. So my job was to go to Edmonton, get trained, come back, train all the staff. It was the beginning of a whole new career for me, and I didn't even know it at the time. Once I left the jail and became involved in, can we cut? That's my phone. So then I became a therapeutic foster parent. And what that means is we took in young ladies between the ages of 12 and 18 with severe behavior problems, many of whom came from the streets. So we did that for just over 3.5 years before I was transferred with my husband to Ireland. And we lived in Cork, Ireland for 10 months. It was supposed to be a 4-year stint. I was very sad when I was told we were moving to Houston. Did not want to come here at all. But you go where your family goes, right? So we came to Houston. I did not work the first year because I did not have a green card. I was not able to work. Then I was able to, and I started working across the street at the preschool only because my daughter went there. I didn't really have anything else to do, and I got half tuition paid. So I'm like, I'm in. So I did that for a couple of years. And then I stayed home, and I decided to homeschool my daughters. So I continued down that career. And then one day, my assistant from the school across the street, the preschool, came to me and said, "Hey, Deb, I found a job for you." I'm like, "Hey, Kathy, I have a job. I'm a full-time mom with homeschooled daughters. Like, I'm busy." She goes, "Oh, no, no, no. It's just on Saturdays." I'm like, huh. So the job was to train teachers around the country. You fly out on Friday night. You train all day Saturday. You fly home Saturday night. I'm like, huh, I think this might work. So I went down, and it wasn't an interview. It was an audition. So I went through the audition. I got hired, which was awesome. And I did that for just under 4 years. And the reason I stopped is because my homeschooling of my own daughters expanded to where I had 12 additional kids coming to my house for school. And the place that my daughters went to Friday afternoon so I could fly would not accept people that were not truly homeschooled. It was a homeschool community, and they wouldn't accept my students. So I had to quit my job, which made me very sad. But I loved being with my students, and I had them with me for 5 years in my home. The second year that I had students in my home, more students wanted to come, and I just didn't have the room. So I helped start and open up 14 other schools around the nation, and we serviced about 1,000 homeschoolers a year through our program that used our curriculum. When my daughters went off to college, I made the decision to leave the schools and to get into college planning, which I participated in for about 2.5 years until my mother-in-law got very sick, and I needed to leave my job and go to Canada, where I was for 4 months taking care of her. When I returned, I didn't have a job. It was crazy. I was going to all these networking meetings. I didn't even have business cards because I wasn't doing anything. And so I took that time to write a book with Brian Tracy, who you may or may know. He's very famous. And that was a really cool experience. And then I had also been doing a lot of tutoring and helping kids out. And one of my friends said to me, "Hey, Deb, why don't you open up an after-school program? That would be awesome." So I did. I opened up an after-school program, and I did that for a couple of years. In fact, I continued that for 2 years after I opened the school, but it just got to be too much. So I let that go. Oh, that's a lot of stuff. Sorry, I'm old. There's a lot of things to talk about. But that's the short, quick story of my background.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the camp? Not too much, because, it's a bit hard talking for almost about 20 minutes. But can you tell us a little bit about the camps, and then once you're done about that, would you like to say anything to inspire other young adults, maybe?
Okay, sure. So we this year decided to expand our camp offerings. So we started with a Free Choice Friday camp for 1 week. On our school campus, we do Free Choice Friday with our first and second graders, which when they complete their work, if they get all their week's work done, Friday afternoon, they can choose educational games to play with their friends. They love it. So we gave them a whole week of Free Choice Friday. The next camp we had was a culinary camp where students met on campus. They determined their menu for the week. We went out and bought the food, and then we cooked and we played games when we weren't cooking. We had a lot of fun trying all new recipes. The final day of that camp was held at my home. We had a pool party, and my husband taught them how to use a barbecue and how to grill food. So that was very fun. The next camp was a art camp that we did right in this studio, and they were able to explore and use all of the wonderful opportunities that we have in here to create. And then we took a little break for 4th of July, and now we're back at our third camp, which is our Summer Success Summit. And this is my 12th year in running the summit, and it's the first year we've extended it to 3 weeks by popular request. And every year when I've been on campus running this, we have written a book. This year we are just wrapping up our 7th book, which is in our series, What Every Cool Kid Deserves to Know. And this year it's about persuasion. So this camp is my most favorite thing to do. I absolutely love it. And I'm always so amazed at the creativity that the students have, both in writing the story and in illustrating it. And I'm also so impressed by how well they collaborate and cooperate and come up with this amazing book in just 8 days. This year they had an extra 4 days, but it's a longer book and I think a much more in-depth book. And they also incorporated material that they didn't know before they started. And so this year I really pushed them past their normal expectations, and I can't say how proud I am. How proud I am. The next camp that will happen will be a drop-in camp for the entire month of August. Students are welcome to come Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 9 to 12 to really get acclimated back into school again. They don't have to be my students to join us, and we'll be working on ways to sort of just kind of brush up on maybe some math skills and some reading, but in really fun ways that they may not even know they're learning anything, because I got some really good ideas. I'm super excited. And then we'll be back to school on September 7th.
Well, before you tell them they're inspired, where can you get these books? Like on Amazon, eBay?
So yes, currently right now you can order them from our publisher, which is Lulu Publishing. I chose to not put them on Amazon in the past because the amount of money my students would earn was drastically reduced. Amazon takes a bigger chunk. However, I feel that this book we're working on right now, especially with endorsements from Dr. Cialdini, will most likely kind of run off the shelf, if you will. So I don't do anything without consulting my students, but we will discuss it on Thursday and make a decision. And if the students want us to put it on Amazon, then I will make that happen. It'll just reduce our profit level by a small margin.
Well, that seems reasonable. But is there any last inspiring words or sentences which you would like to tell the audience?
There is. So yesterday, for those of you listening and watching, we did an exercise called Write Your Own Obituary, which sounds a little gruesome. However, hear me out. It really allowed our students to act as if they want to be remembered by. And I think if you don't think about that and you just kind of live your life like a leaf in the wind, kind of going where it blows you, you don't accomplish as much. And so we sat down and thought about, what do we want people saying when we leave the room? What do we want people saying when we leave this life? And it's a very inspiring opportunity to really get clear on how you want to be perceived. And so what came out for me when I was going through that exercise, because I never asked my students to do something I'm not willing to do, so I wrote one too. And what I found was my purpose here is for adults to realize how capable children are and to continue to give students voice and choice. That is probably the one thing that I feel very, very strongly about. When I did my TED Talk a couple of years ago, we talked about our 6 pillars here, and those evolved because of my ability to really recognize the capabilities in students and children everywhere. So for any adults listening out there, your kids have fabulous ideas. Allow them to voice them. That's the best thing you can do as a parent, as an educator, as a leader.
Well, guys, thank you for coming back to the Shady Oak podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.